Good day, beautiful friends. It's time once again to vibe with the beautiful tribe on this Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, as we continue to see more predictions flowing into fruition. As the month of May quickly is about to come to a close, speeding us even more quickly towards that most intense window of time for 2025. Late June through till mid-August, with July being the most intense month of all. Hold on tight, friends. Things are about to speed up. But over the past week, I gotta say the energy still feel that they have been lightened up quite a bit, which is really nice to have a bit of a breather. But don't hold your breath long, friends. And don't hold your breath at all, actually. Take nice deep breaths and breathe deeply, for amazing times are truly ahead of us. It's just this really bumpy road full of potholes that lies ahead before we finally run into that smooth pavement. That's going to be a while down the road, but we will get there, I assure you. And the strong feeling still lies within most of us that there's some kind of big event on our doorsteps. Likely several big events on our doorsteps. And I assure you they are, in accordance to past predictions and such. In past predictions, I warned about the waters. I did this in the 2025 World Forecast and Predictions. Warned about the waters and many coming events revolved around the waters. Flooding, boats, ships, and any kind of incident or accident that could be revolved around all of these. And over the past week, really, we really began to see some of these coming into fruition. From the ship that crashed into the coast just inches from a home in Norway. That's a wild footage. A deadly boat explosion on the Hudson River. Major floods and outages in Sydney, Australia. More flooding in Kentucky, India, and the list goes on, friends. And this is just only the kickoff of what's around the corner as far as waters and everything water related. Again, it's going to be interesting. Just as interesting as airplanes have been lately. For a while, actually. Airplanes are back in the spotlight. First, with the Qatar free plane given to Trump in the United States, which of course came with it lots of speculation and controversy. Also bringing in a lot of speculation and controversy of some sorts is the recent plane crash that occurred in San Diego, California, in a military community. Some speculate claims that there was no plane at all. And I'll tell you why people speculate that. And again, it's just speculation from people that were on the ground that witnessed it. While there also happens to be this strange connection to the number 6 with not just this plane, but the whole 666 connection. It gets creepy with the number 6. And interesting enough, we're about to go into a 6 universal month in the month of June. Could that be connected to any of this at all? Or is this all just a coincidence? Wait until I play it all out for you today. Perhaps, maybe they're pointing us to a date. 6-6. I don't know. I'll tell you what my feelings are about it today. No matter how strange it may be. And perhaps not so coincidental. Things are popping up all around these crashes. All kinds of weird things. And I'll explain again today. Speaking of planes, moving over into our skies, now the United Kingdom. We talked about this, blocking out the sun and such. But now they have a name for their little manipulation plan in their skies. It's a name. Take a guess. Take a really good guess what that name is. The abbreviation of that name. Well, if you haven't guessed, I'm going to tell you later. I was going to tell you now, but I'll tell you later when we go over it. And I kid you not. I kid you not. It's pretty crazy. It's all pretty crazy, friends. And I discovered something really strange on the moon. Or not on the moon, but with the moon. Last week. Starting on Thursday. When I was sitting out front on the deck in the morning. Observing the birds in nature. And absorbing some sunlight and some fresh air. And just something seemed to appear very strange to me with some strange photographs that I was able to take of the moon. And I find it to be unexplainable, and I want to see what you think today. Also today, we're going to talk about a story about past lives. And proof, in my opinion, you don't need to prove it to me, but maybe to you. Proof that past lives are a real thing. Not only that, so are angels, who may intervene when you're not meant to pass away. 2 amazing stories that I'm going to show you today. The fight between Musk and Gates is getting deep. And really, really deep, friends. And we're about to go even deeper today into the week's past events, how they may align with past predictions and even prophecy, the incoming energies for the week, along with predictions, of course, always to feed your prediction addiction on this episode number 168 of Tuesday's Prediction Update. So get that tea ready, friends, because it's Tittle Tea time, baby. I hope you all had a lovely, wonderful weekend, and all the American tribe here had a great holiday weekend, for it was holiday. It's actually holiday right now when I'm recording this, which happens to be, what time is it? 4:10 p.m. on Monday evening from beautiful Sedona, Arizona. That's just under 4 hours away from the new moon. And I hope you are all taking advantage of the new moon in Gemini. That's ringing in tonight here in Arizona just after 8 p.m. And I guess on the other side of the planet, I guess it'll be tomorrow when this all rings in. Well, it's already tomorrow there, isn't it? Probably pretty close, depending on where on the planet you are. And I'm recording this again on Monday. So if anything huge happens in the world between now and tomorrow evening, this is pre-recorded, friends. So some folks, for some folks, this full moon rings in during the early mornings of the 26th. And by the time you're watching this, we're already in the waxing moon cycle. That's the new moon to the full moon is the waxing moon cycle. And like with every new moon, this is an amazing time to launch new goals. You have all week to do it, friends. Launch new goals. It's all about new beginnings. It's all about planting seeds to your future visions of what you're living in the future, and even planting your seeds for your garden. Remember, our ancient ancestors always planted on the new moon and during the waxing moon cycle that we're just stepped into. And they harvest it, of course, on the full moon and during the waning moon cycles, right after the full moon. So plant those seeds, friends, whether it's the seeds and planting the seeds to your visions of the future, or whether it's planting the seeds in your garden beds. Get them going. And let the universe see your visions, because if you don't have a vision, the universe has no idea where to go or where to take you. So let the universe see what your vision is so that the spirits and the angels can drive you to your destination. Otherwise, you'll just be driving around in circles forever, friends. Always have a vision. And the new moon in Gemini can truly assist us in planting seeds to the future, especially when it comes to relationships. Relationships, good for planting seeds with relationships. Simply by focusing, something you could do is just simply focus every day on the kind of people, the kind of friendships, and the kind of relationships that you want to be surrounded by. With the willingness, of course, to let go of anybody outside that vision, no matter who it is. And then most importantly is when somebody comes knocking on the door, you got to let them in, because the universe is going to bring those good people to you. So good time to focus on, again, what you want, not what you don't want. What you don't want and what you want to get rid of, wait till the full moon for that. For now, focus on what you do want. It's also a great time, this waning moon cycle, again, for planting your seeds when it comes to education. Perhaps you want to go back to school, learn a new technique or hobby or something that helps you discover new creativities that have been hidden deep within you for too long. You don't know until you get out and try. This is the perfect time to do so over the next couple of weeks. Another thing that's a good idea is, read a new subject, pick up something new, attend a workshop, attend a class, especially as we step into the sixth vibration in June. That's all about education. So with this moon cycle, though, this is also a really great time to do some writing. Whether it's picking up a journal, writing down your affirmations, writing down your goals. Remember, when you write them down, you're empowering them. So write down your goals, write down your visions. And maybe, whatever is besides what you're manifesting, maybe start a blog. Maybe you've been thinking of that in the back of your mind. Or writing a book. Or writing a short story. This is a great time, friends. Great time to do all that. It's a great time for networking. And even jumping onto the stage if you want to do some public speaking. Now's the time. That's why we'll see a lot of people jumping on the world stage over the next couple of weeks when it comes to protesting. And we're seeing protests all over Iran, Israel, Gaza, and just all over the globe. India. So wait until the next coming month and next coming weeks. It's going to be many people wanting to take the stage. And in most cases, they should. they should speak their minds in their peace. And we will see many people taking to the platform in coming weeks to speak their minds. It's exactly what's going to happen, and speak their peace. That'll be interesting. We could also potentially see some type of diplomatic treaties going into place during this time period. Although, other transits and energies could actually make this a little more difficult than normal. We're all about to step into we're about to step out of the 5 universal month by the end of the week, and then into the 6 universal month of 2025. And I love personally the 6 vibration, because the 6 vibration, for many reasons, the 6 can make us look at things and look at things with determination as to what we don't want anymore and what we do want. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. Pretty simple. The 6 gives us that energy to do so. I'm not doing this anymore, but I do want to do this. So it can be really exciting. Keep your eyes out for the June forecast, of course. And we overanalyze in the 6 vibration every little aspect of our lives to the point of driving ourselves and perhaps others crazy. So watch that overanalyzation, which again is still powerful, because when you overanalyze, you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. So flow with those energies. It's also a good thing as we determine, what no longer serves our highest potentials. And then we begin to open up to the possibilities that we begin to open. And when we open up to those possibilities, we begin to open up to these new doorways. New doors to new possibilities. So the 6 is a great energy, in my opinion. Great vibration. So as much as the intense energies are coming in June and July, it's still beneficial when it comes to the numbers. June, the 6, the 7 vibration of spiritual ascension. Oh, baby, it's going to be major spiritual ascension come July. So we are going into some positive numbers, just not so many positive energies and transits. But they do all lead to positivity at the end. Always remember that. There's always a light at the end of the table. So interesting enough, also, again, the 6 vibration represents the education system. It represents learning. So June, especially with the new moon in Gemini, it's going to open us up to these amazing new life lessons, as long as you're paying attention. And of course, this desire to always want to learn something new, that'll break free within you in the month of June. There's something else I was going to say about it, and I just drew a blank. Darn. Something else I was going to say about that 6 vibration. Must not have been important. But it's random too. You may have this random idea that I'm going to take a class, or randomly want to take this workshop. Randomly you want to start yoga, even though you've been thinking about it, but then you just randomly do it. Or I want to pick up that new subject or learn something new. That's what the 6 vibration is going to do. It's going to be quite interesting, quite fun, if you flow with it, of course. Now remember to take time, to take it slow. Do not rush into these things, anything. Allow the universe to perfectly, divinely align everything for you, and know deeply that universe is doing so. I will go more into the 6 vibration and the transits and the predictions in my June forecast that will be premiering later this week. So be sure to keep that eye out for that, likely Thursday evening. Now, another reminder from Team Spirits is that we are in a major transitional point for humanity and the entire planet. Our DNA is going through this shift and this change to match the higher vibrational fields of the future Earth. In this process, there's about to be both pivotal, I can never say it right, pivotal points and challenging points in time that are coming up, especially again during these summer months, which are also currently going on, but more so on our doorsteps. Events, even unfortunate tragedies that are all meant to both awaken people on new levels, but also to bring people together in ways that we have not witnessed in a long time. And that's what we're going to see playing out throughout these coming months. A lot of people wanting to help others and do more for others. That could be part of that 7 vibration of July. But remember, too, the 9 vibration altogether of 2025 does represent humanitarian efforts. And in order for something like that to happen, humanitarian efforts usually means some type of tragic event or storm or what have you. And we've seen that play out somewhat this year already, in the beginning of the year, even in California. But much larger levels are coming because, again, it's something that's going to shake the entire world, the entire planet. Multiple events. It's what it's going to take, unfortunately, to wake some of these people up, friends. And some will never awaken. Some will never awaken. So spirits also warn that when Mother Earth begins to burp, that's how Spirit put it to me, burp up like reflux. Reflux, when you get reflux, heartburn, that's Mother Earth right now. And when she starts to burp up that heartburn reflux, that's going to be the lava, of course. The grounds will begin to shake and crack apart. But Spirit says, do not panic. Always be prepared for any possibility. And know that this too will pass, of course. And when it does, humanity will stand together in a much higher, much more brilliant vibration. It's just, again, that bumpy road that's full of potholes and twists and turns like a roller coaster that we're about to slowly drive down. Slowly. We might pick up speed as we go down the hill. And then we might hit a pothole. Might even fall into a few potholes. The world, anyway, globally. So take advantage of these times that are coming. Take advantage of the current times. You can do that by focusing on your own spiritual growth. Staying within your own heart space, that's really important, especially when you're faced with any kind of negative thought, negative experience. Try your best to very quickly shift any of that negativity into positivity by simply shifting your mind onto something like love. And you can do that simply by bringing something into your mind that makes your heart smile and brings you joy. If you have kids, it could be your kids, it could be your grandkids, it could be chocolate. Whatever makes your heart smile. Just shift that negativity right on over. Focus on the heart, think of something that brings you joy. And take advantage of this new waxing moon that we just stepped into. Just simply by keeping that clear vision. That clear vision of not just where you want to be or where you're hoping or praying to be, but instead knowing wholeheartedly in your heart and soul that somehow, some way, come hell or high water, you're already there in that amazing future. Get excited and live every day as if you're already there, and you'll manifest it much, much quicker. Beautiful tribe, I just wanted to take a moment to welcome you to the channel, back to the channel. If you're new here, you want accurate predictions, prophecy, and truth, and you want to vibe with this awesome tribe that we have created here, then smash that subscribe, the bell, and all so that you get notifications. Also, click that thumbs up love button because that'll get more of this content onto your feed, whether it's content like this or content from this channel, both. Hit that thumbs up. Also be aware that the algies, we'll call them the algies, like to manipulate my numbers quite often. So always be sure to check that you weren't mysteriously unsubscribed if I don't show up in your notifications or show up on your feed. Go directly to my YouTube channel to ensure that you are always subscribed. Also, be aware down below, you can find the link to the free newsletter. It's free, open it up. The next newsletter will be going out probably by the end of this week for June's forecast. And then also Thursday's premiere of the forecast and predictions for June. You don't want to miss that. Sign up for the free newsletter down below. You can also find the links to all my other social media, including the Awaken Your Spirit community of supporters who help make this free content possible for others. I thank you all with infinite love and gratitude for making that possible. Also, last week, and I noticed this happens the end of every month in my video, at the end of the month. It always is the end of the month. Last week, people consistently in the comments or the chat said that they were having problems with their sound. And they were saying it was the video. I assure you, it is not my videos. This is not live. This is pre-recorded. I use high-tech audio equipment, high-tech video equipment, and then my friends, supporters on Subscribestar watch this before everybody else does. And it always flows just fine. The only glitches is with the Zoom app. And this isn't on Zoom. This is uploaded directly to YT. Here's what the issue is. This happens for two reasons. It happens all the time at the end of the month because you may not realize that you're out of internet data. And you may have internet company that says that your data is unlimited, but read the fine print. The only internet provider that has unlimited is Starlink. And I know that as a content provider and who runs a business on internet, I need unlimited. At one point, I had two different internets. And then they got Starlink here, which was the savior. But once you get to a certain cap, they slow you down. That will cause you glitches in your video, your audio, and everything else. Another thing happens which I noticed because it's happened to me with other channel or videos I was watching. Sometimes if you have your YouTube open so long, you have to close it completely. Close it down, go back in, and then open it back up, and your video and audio will play just fine. And if it doesn't, then it's probably the end of the month and you're past your internet cap. But other than that, the only time there are glitches in my videos is when I go live, and I rarely do that because of that reason. I do all uploads so that all your audio and video is as perfect as I could possibly get it for you. So, lastly, watch fake profiles on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and if you get a message on any of those private messengers from someone that appears to be me, I assure you, it is not me. Please report those profiles immediately. Thank you for doing so, and let's move on with some more tea time, baby. Discussing the topic of water events seems to be one of those things that's going to become way too common in the coming months, and even now. Just like in our past discussions about events revolved around airplanes. We talked about that last year in sky events. All really very important areas to focus on, especially in 2025 and in the coming years. I warned about the waters, and many coming events revolved around the waters. Flooding, boats, ships, what have you, even jet skis. And many coming incidents and accidents revolved around all of these. And I talked about that last week when I posted a top prediction video where we went into details of coming events and revolved around the waters. And something we also warned in 2025 forecasts and predictions, what I put out back in December of 2024. And it's happening with the strange water events. It's really starting to kick off. Because over the past week, it really, again, began to come into fruition in wild ways, starting with this ship. This ship crashed into the coast of Norway, coming inches from the home. And the footage reminds me of that movie, Leave the World Behind. Check out this huge cargo ship and how close it came to this man's home, who actually slept inside without even realizing the incident took place until a neighbor woke him banging on his door. Is that ship, if that ship was just, say, a few feet over, it would have, likely that man and the whole house would have been wiped out and leveled completely. He's definitely got some angels watching over his shoulder, for sure. Which we all do, especially when it comes to our exit points if we're not meant to exit. And I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit later. So then comes the deadly boat explosion that occurred on the Hudson River in New York after a strange explosion occurred on the city's sewage ships. I don't even know what a sewage ship is. I don't even really want to know. And sadly, sending one city worker right to the gates of heaven, friends. So prayers to that family. There is no footage of this explosion. All that I could find was, of course, the articles. But what's up with the Hudson and that whole area in New York? We saw too many incidents around that in the Hudson. Often. You know, that's interesting. That just popped in my mind as a reminder, and it's not in my notes. But remember back in 2009, Captain Soley landed the plane in the Hudson. That was in my predictions for 2009. I saw a vision of a plane landing in the water near a bridge. And that's exactly what happened. Well, today or yesterday, I had a similar vision of a plane going into the water. So, and I forgot to put that in my notes. Sometimes things come to me constantly, and I don't always have time to remember or write them down. But spirits reminded me, so thank you. So then, again, we had that deadly boat explosion and all these weird things and weird incidents. We saw too many incidents around the Hudson. And remember the helicopter crash, plunging into the Hudson, and the 6 passengers that went in the water with it, and also went to the gates of heaven. Something's going on along that Hudson and along New York. And it's just, to me, only just begun. Spirit gives me this strong feeling that we are going to be hearing much, much more coming out when it comes to the Hudson River, New York City. And the Hudson could actually be deemed unsafe or dangerous in the near future for some odd reason. I'm not sure what. But that was my feeling today. And I see some other type of major rescue efforts that are going to take place in the Hudson. Not sure what is happening. All I saw was a vision. It was nighttime. I saw tons of rescue boats on the river with their flashing lights, and I saw lots of rescue and fire along the coast. Okay, that's all I could see was a lot of the flashing lights and the commotion, and it looked like a lot. A lot was going on there. And I had that vision this morning, actually. And I can't help but to feel, or actually it was yesterday morning, I can't help but to feel that this has something to do with a bridge as well. I don't know if it's next to a bridge or something to do with the bridge, but I felt like there was a bridge connection. I didn't see the bridge in my vision, but I felt it, if that makes any sense at all. Now, another area Spirit warned was our friends down under in Australia. In recent predictions, especially around New South Wales, once again, we're seeing footage appear, which appears to be apocalyptic, as Australians are calling this a record-breaking flood event. They just keep getting hit all around the country, one after another, one area after another, especially that particular area. And places that actually Spirit had me point to on the map in my weather prediction video, if we go back to that. And remember, I also warned not that long ago, Sydney, Australia. I had warned them about outages taking place in Sydney, Australia, especially around subways and trains. And friends, lo and behold, during all these floods, folks in Sydney panicked as outages caused commuters to scramble for finding a new way home. Could you imagine being stuck and not being able to go anywhere? It'd be no fun. Especially if you're stuck in a city and you live outside the city and you're going home from a long day. That would be awful. So friends in Sydney and surrounding areas, beware, because Mother Nature is not through with you or any of us for that matter. I'll do a weather update video in early June. We'll go over the hurricanes and everything else. But for now, because hurricane season begins June 1st, actually. So for now, and luckily no early hurricanes so far, knock on wood. There's still a couple days left in the month. I do feel that there's going to be more outages that are going to come to Sydney, Australia, and surrounding areas. And it's not just going to be trains or subways. I feel like complete outages. I also feel earthquake activity uptick happening in the northern parts of Australia, and one quake that's going to bring waves crashing to the shorelines near Sydney and the northern parts. And someone in the comments just said there was I don't know where, but somewhere in Australia there was a 5.3. And then where else did I just see one earthquake? Oh, down there in the Gulf of Mexico, 3.1 earthquake, which was odd. All kinds of odd weather activity, not activity, but with the NORAD, the weather things. I'm sure you saw some of those videos. I was going to show you today, but just got too much other stuff to talk about. We talk about that weather stuff all the time. So prayers to our friends down there in Australia, and be aware no matter where you are. We had severe flooding that occurred in Argentina. Major flooding in Argentina. And then also floods in Mumbai, India. And the list just is going to continue to go on and continue to grow. And this is only the kickoff of what's to come around the waters and everything water related. Remember, hurricane season, again, I remind you, begins June 1st. And I'm feeling more the latter part of the season. I'm not so worried about the early part of the season as I am the latter part of the season. And even though that no early hurricanes yet, I don't want to speak too soon. There's still a couple days left for one to form out there in the tropics. But I feel like late ones. We'll see late ones. Ones that go maybe past the date. Whatever date that is. I forget when the date ends, but going past the date. And I see tons of flooding coming to the south of the United States. Parts of Texas are about to receive record flooding. Florida, the Carolinas, and parts of Georgia. And I cannot help but to feel that much of this is related to late summer hurricanes and other strange weather patterns, of course. I see major flooding in the southern region of India and major coastal issues along coasts of India. China is going to get pounded with floods and earthquakes in coming months. And Spirit just whispered that this incoming tsunami will hit parts of China too. Okay, that's the first time I heard that one. So the coming tsunami, which one? because you've been telling us there's going to be a few. But the big one, they said the big one will hit China too. All right, then. I also see major problems along the west coast of the United States, from Northern California all the way up to British Columbia. Severe weather systems that I see. I had visions this morning, actually, this was today. I had visions of Seattle and Portland inundated by waters. Like, just crazy. And I see problems with major mudslides and other major weather events hitting all those parts I just mentioned, from Northern California all the way up to British Columbia. So hold on tight, friends, in that area. You know, if something's coming, get away from the coast, far away from the coast. And let us move on to our next topic. Speaking of the weather, many times we have discussed the manipulation of such, and the United States patents revolved around such technologies that prove that it's so. We've also recently discussed how Gates and friends are working together with the United Kingdom to block out the sun. As if they aren't already doing so in some way or another. You know, when they tell us they're going to do something, they're already doing it, friends. They're already doing it. Or they already have done it. So I have been maybe as shocked as some of you are going to be when I tell you the name of their little planned agenda. Check it out. Stratospheric Aerosol Transport and Nucleation, better known as S.A.T.A.N, refers to a research project involving high-altitude balloons that release sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere to study solar geoengineering, which aims to reflect sunlight and potentially cool the Earth. This project is controversial, of course it is, due to concerns about unintended consequences and lack of regulatory oversight in geoengineering efforts. Satan. That's in our faces, friends. Like, it's kind of like the satellite that the Vatican owns, which I believe is here in Arizona, actually. That's abbreviated Lucifer. And if you don't believe that, look that one up for yourself. Look up the telescope Lucifer. So if that's not right in our faces, the whole Satan thing, not right in our faces, I don't know what is, friends. I don't know what is. But I do know that it seems like Satan's running the skies now. You know, and we still have all that crazy drone activity happening over there on in Pennsylvania. Actually, my buddy just sent me this picture last night. Save photo. Now look at this. No, there's one saved. As we zoom in, like, what the heck? And he says it's drones, you know, and he sends me pictures almost constant. He could send them to me every day because it's every day. And this is happening over Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is not far from the river crossing over to New Jersey, like right there, you know, where I used to fish. And I had a friend that passed in that river, Delaware River. Yeah, so it's still happening, friends. Still happening. I want to know what you think about this S.A.T.A.N thing that's happening over there, especially my friends in the United Kingdom. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. I'm always interested in that. Oh, that's the other thing with comments. People always say, you delete comment. Well, if you're a troll, yeah, your comments get deleted and you get blocked. But comments go through an approval process. So when you leave your comment, it has to be approved. And they don't get approved right away. Sometimes they don't show up till the next day. Excuse me. So be patient, please. And your comments are always appreciated and read. It gets even stranger with this symbolism, by the way, around the whole Satan or the devil or whatever you want to refer to it. And even the number 6. I'll go into that in a moment. But first, airplanes. Airplanes are back in the spotlight. First, with, of course, the free airplane to Trump in the United States, which, of course, came with lots of speculation and controversy. Personally, I could really care less. I could care less. Whatever. They're going to do what they're going to do, and that's just the way it is for now. And if they want to accept an airplane from a foreign nation and step into that danger zone, then let them do so. Especially a foreign nation that cannot be trusted. So, then so be it. But that's the other thing, the whole Saudi Arabia and Trump going there. That guy, that prince of Saudi Arabia, I told you, he's not a good man. And that's all going to backfire. They're using the president. They're using him. And It's not going to turn out good. Saudi Arabia is going to stab us right in our backs, as they will everybody else. Beware. They're just trying to get their weapons or whatever they're trying to do. Who knows? So personally, again, going back to the whole aeroplane thing, they're going to only rip it apart anyway. The government's going to rip it apart and put in their own technology. But I wouldn't trust them either if I was the president. I would not trust them. Especially being they didn't want them to have it, and then they're forced to rip it apart and fix it. Oh, I wouldn't trust them. And then they can blame the other nation for it. Just a thought. Just a thought. It's a done deal, so we can move on. Also bringing in lots of speculation is the recent crash into a military community in San Diego, California over the weekend. Some speculations claim that there was no plane at all, only because there were people on the ground who actually live at that base that stated that they saw no leftover plane wreckage. There's one guy, I watched the video, he walked through, he's like, there's no wreckage. Where all is destruction and fire. No engine. It's always an engine, right? They always show us the engine on the ground or whatever. No parts. Nothing at all. Just a path of fire and destruction and disaster. Now, many folks are now pointing to the date it occurred. Or actually, they're not pointing. I'm pointing to the date. Nobody else is pointing to the date. The 22nd. You know about that 22 master number, friends? We talk about it all the time. It's always used by the illuminated ones, the Masons that are so free. So, look at that. They took out JFK on the 22nd of November, 11/22. The 22 can often be linked, of course, to the Freemasons, to even Satanism and different types of actual demons as well. So you got to beware of that 22 date. Believe it or not, it's all true. So this makes this crash look even more stranger, in my opinion, because of the whole 22 thing. I don't know if I mentioned that in my May forecast. Don't remember. The 11 and the 22 of a month comes up often for big events. So I try not to even say it anymore because I feel like I'm saying it all the time because there's always something happening on the 11th or the 22nd, especially the 22nd. And remember, 29th of a month is an 11-day too. That's when we get disasters, natural disasters and things happen a lot on the 11th and the 29th. And then more like disasters like this or pow events happen around the 22. Interesting as that may be. But get this, friends, there's also happens to be this strange 6 connection. 666 connection, actually, to this crash and to previous crashes in the United States. Is this just a coincidence? I want to know again what you think. We had the Philly plane crash where 6 people, met their maker in the heavens. 6 people at that one. Then there was the helicopter crash. Was that the Hudson? That also claimed 6 lives. And then there was the strange crash that just happened in San Diego, also sending 6 people to the pearly gates of heaven. Sad. That's 3 6s in a row, friends. The number of the beast. So we are told anyway. Do you think that's strange? Perhaps not. Perhaps you don't. But explain this one to me. First, we look at the plane itself that crashed into San Diego. And here's the flight's call sign. List it in plain sight, friends. There you see it. Plain sight. No pun intended. N666DS. 666s, baby. Right there in our faces. 3 6s, 6 people. And it gets even stranger when we look at one of the passengers of the airplane that crashed into San Diego military community. This guy right here, Daniel Williams, who was the drummer of a band. And you know what that band, you probably do, but many of you might not. You know what that band was called? The Devil Wears Prada. There's that devil again. He just keeps popping up, don't he? Keeps popping up. Do you believe that's a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. Perhaps this could be, perhaps they're also pointing to a specific date. That popped in my mind. 6/6. That's coming up. That's upon us. June 6th. Are they going to use that? I don't ever recall them using that for anything in the past. But, there's no necessary significance other than the 666s. We're not in a 6 year. We're in a 9 year. So if we were in a 6 year, then June 6th would be a 666. But it's just 6/6. But we'll have to see if anything big happens on 6/6, especially with airplanes. I would not be surprised if we see one explode in the skies. And another thing that Spirit keyed me in on is that there is no coincidence around these incidents. Here's the other thing. I forgot all about this one. The outage that happened at Newark Airport, the 90-second outage. Remember, you turn that 9 upside down, and that's a 6. And that's just reaching. So we won't reach. We don't have to reach. Because the one in Denver that happened right after the one in Newark was 6 days apart from each other. There's that damn 6 again. So it's all connected, friends. There's some type of technology that's manipulating this. And I wouldn't doubt that it's a foreign nation, like maybe, say, Iran, maybe Iraq, Afghanistan, and Russia, all connected to some kind of technology that's doing this to our airplanes and that's doing this to our towers. I assure you. That was the strong feeling I got. And don't be surprised if that technology can't make things explode in the skies and make other planes just go down. Again, just like we saw in the movie, Leave the World Behind. Again, no coincidences that was put out, a year ago, right? Did you watch that? Produced by the Obamas. No coincidence there either, friends. Lots of no coincidence. We should have a shirt, no coincidences, ever. So there's that whole thing. Tragic accidents around that 6 and maybe June 6. Let's hope not. But again, it's really it's really truly beginning to appear that Satan is taking to the skies. Remember, the drones, everything else. And Jesus Christ did warn us in the Holy Bible that, signs would appear in the heavens. And baby, they're sure appearing in the heavens. Things are happening. And just wait until we get into late June, into July. I can't stress that enough. I've been telling you this since December of last year. Wait till that time window. Spirit's been warning us about that window of time for a long time now. So hold on tight, friends. This roller coaster is about to take off. And once again, speaking of strange events and things that have to do with our skies and signs that appear in the heavens, I happened to notice something really strange last week, starting on Thursday of last week to be exact, which I noticed actually a while back. I noticed, but then I stopped paying attention. And then, it just happened. I couldn't miss this one, friends. I couldn't miss this one over the past week. And you may recall, remember Spirit telling us that we would see strange movements of the moon and of the stars and even the sun. Right? Remember that? And other strange, of course, sky phenomenon. Well, I sure thought this was strange. And I think maybe you might think it's really strange too. And if not strange, at least it's some pretty darn good photography right here. First is this normal shot. This is just the normal shot from my front deck. I was sitting outside. I like to sit out front once in a while, absorb the nature. This was on Thursday at 11:30 in the morning. And notice where the moon is in the sky. It's way up there, right? Well, not way up there, but you do notice anything else strange about that? Look at the picture again. Notice where the moon is in the sky in comparison to the mountain. Now, then I decided to use my binoculars because I have this little attachment that you can hook up to your binoculars and snap your phone in to take a close-up picture. And I never really used it. I use the binoculars all the time. I love to stare at the mountains. I'm still waiting to spot a mountain lion or something, even though they're more out at nighttime. And I actually, come to think of it, I don't go out with my night vision goggles. I forgot I even had them. I have to do that tonight. Go sit outside and look and see if I catch anything with my night vision goggles. Which actually, I believe, has a camera in it, too, that we could take pictures if there is anything strange. Because they say you could see things better with night vision goggles. And actually, even better with, what is that called? Infrared? Infrared. You can see, like, UFOs that you can't see with your naked eye. But going back to the binoculars and the zoom in, first you'll notice how much it dropped down towards the Rock Butte. Just 5 minutes later, I took this picture. Just 5 minutes later. And the moon dropped down quite a bit in 5 minutes. And then this is 7 minutes after the first pic I took. And just a few minutes later, the moon fell completely out of sight and behind the mountain. But look again, close up. The light is at the top of the moon. The moon phase crescents from right to left and left to right, not from top to bottom. And some people say, oh, because it's daytime. I've seen the moon during the daytime crescent side to side like it's supposed to be. Right. But it gets even stranger. So, again, hold them comments. Wait a moment. Don't jump into the comments quite yet, because there's the very next day, Friday, I went out again at the same exact time. And here is the distant shot that you can barely see that the moon is way high up in the sky at 11:30 the very next morning. And here are the close-ups. The one I messed with, you can see the coloring with the bright blues because I messed with it to try to bring out the features. And the fact that I absolutely don't see any craters on this moon whatsoever. No craters whatsoever. This moon was not... And this last photo was at 12 noon Friday. And there's the moon again, way up above the rock, Mountain Butte. But again, at 12:16, moving to the right, it moved, but it moved to the right, not down, just to the right. Whereas the previous day, the moon fell behind the mountain at 11:50 a.m. How come the very next day, it's still way up in the sky 30 minutes later than the previous day? I found that to be really strange. Friday moon, the moon, or the Death Star, whatever you want to call it, was moving towards the right and slightly upwards. While again, the day before, it was just moving downwards. I found this to be very strange. I even looked at the app, that app on your phone that shows you the stars and the planets. And I went out this morning, or actually this afternoon, Monday, at 2 p.m. And of course, today, the new moon rings in. It rings on my app. It shows up on my map, the moon. So I go out front to look up at the sky, and of course the sun blinded me. So I put on some, polarized sunglasses, and according to the app, the moon was right next to the sun. So I'm, this far away in the sky. And I know it's the new moon and it's the dark moon. But if it's the sunlight that made it shine 3 days prior, at the top of the moon, and now the moon's right next to the sun, why is there no outline? Why did I see nothing today but the bright sun? I just thought it was all really, really strange, friends. Found it to be, it didn't feel right to me. It felt really weird. But they are some good moon pictures, I will say, if that is the moon and not the Death Star from Star Wars. And have you noticed yourself any strange movements in the phases of the moon at all? I'm going to continue personally to monitor the moon. And and as I do, I'm not no moon expert. I'm not a sky expert. I just found this all to be really, really interesting and really, really strange and wanted to share it with you. It also validates Spirit telling us to watch the skies and that there'd be changes in the moon. Some people claim there's 2 moons. Until I see 2 moons in the sky together, I won't believe it. I'm the type of person, I got to believe it and know it for myself. Don't speculate or believe the crap you're seeing online. Remember, there's AI now. They can make anything look legit. So use your intuition and don't believe it until you see it for yourself unless you strongly feel it intuitively. The global tensions that are happening globally just seem to become more and more intense. The tensions around the globe are still super intense as we see these protests that are erupting all over Iran. You don't see that on your local news. I don't watch local news. I don't advise you do either. But you don't really see much about what's happening, and there's major protests and even a trucker strike that is happening in Iran. They're getting angry. It has to do with, I don't know what it has to do with, but it's just they're getting angry with their government, basically. That's what it's all about. Same with Israel. There's people protesting in Israel. And of course, there's protests in Gaza, as there very well should be, in my opinion. So tensions between Russia and Ukraine have just escalated, just as Spirit told us they would. Remember, I stated that things are going to get much, much worse before they get better and before peace prevails. Everybody thought that this president in the United States was going to come in and make peace everywhere. Not happening. Not happening. Not yet, anyway. And we're also stepping into these intense transits and energies in the month of June through August. So we can hold peace in the light. But I would tell you to still not to expect it anytime soon. And if we do, well, then the more we get to celebrate. And I told you that Ukraine and friends, likely, maybe the United States three-letter agencies alongside with them, and that NATO would attempt to take out Putin. I told you that. I told you they would. And it's all about regime change, friends. Most conflicts seem to be all about regime change. Well, now it's being allegedly reported. I don't know how true it is. I believe it's true intuitively. That the UKR, or more like NATO, tried to strike down Putin's helicopter over the weekend. Which, again, I do strongly feel intuitively is the truth. And we know this was coming in accordance to past predictions. We knew it. Just as we know that there's one coming for Ukraine's president, too. That one might actually be successful. This alleged attempt on Putin was actually followed by the biggest attacks on the Ukraine and innocent civilians from Russian forces. Sad. Sad to attack innocent people, and it's not right. And Putin and Israel, Netanyahu, they should get together. They probably already are together. Because Putin just seems to be following in his footsteps now, attacking innocent people. And remember, I did a reading on this conflict in Ukraine shortly after it began, and that reading pointed to Russia overtaking a large amount of land and staking claims to it. And it appears that's exactly the direction that it's still heading in as of now. And Putin happens to be a Libra. He's in his 8th personal year in numerology. So it's very possible that he could, be taken out by late 2025. Or more so, likely his reign's going to end in 2026 when he's in his 9 universal year of endings, death of cycles. And we'll have to watch closely on Putin in the month of October for whatever reason. Not only that, October will be his 9th month this year. Now, Zelensky, yeah, he's an Aquarius, and he's also in his 8th personal year. I thought that was interesting. Very interesting. They're in the same personal year in numerology. So the same thing I just said about Putin goes for Zelensky as well. And I have no doubt that both will be gone by the end of 2026. And one of them is going to be likely much, much sooner than that, probably this year. And my bet is going to be that that'll be Zelensky. We'll see how it all plays out. And it'll probably be until they're both gone, until something good happens. Although who steps into Putin's shoes could be a lot worse. Probably will be. It's holding the light, it's not. Remember, Spirit told us a long time ago, that just popped in my brain. A female will change Russia for the better. I don't think that's coming yet, though. I think there'll be somebody in between. Another male that falls in between for a short reign, maybe 4 years. So expect things to get even more out of hand, unfortunately. Israel is going to make a move on Iran, but not until a flag flies ever so falsely. And be aware of the coming flag, says the spirits. 3 flags are going to fly ever so falsely in the next 2 months. Also expect to see the use of new forms of combat weapons and technologies in these conflicts in the coming months. But again, holding the light, that's not the case. But as of today, that is the case. Speaking of conflicts, we now have the alleged conflict between Musk and Gates. It's a comedy show. It's all show, friends. It's all just a simulated show. Sometimes it's quite funny. This one gets quite funny, actually. And here I thought that they were actually buddies. I thought they were both buddies, but there again, Musk did steal Gates' richest man title. So Gates is probably bitter about that. Yeah, no doubt, says the spirits. So first, it started on the horrific television show, who Gates happened to be on. He seems to fit perfectly with The View, if you know what I mean. Check it out.
Mr. Gates, you also called Elon Musk's political influence abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't.
A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried now with these cuts, if they're not reversed, we'll go to over 6 million dying. So instead of going down, we'll go back up.
He called Musk insane in a word that they cannot say on the telly. Wonder what that word is. I'm curious. I didn't look that up. I'm not that curious, but I am curious. So instead of down, we go back up, he says, instead of down, we go back up, as if he really knows what he's even talking about. And I could care less for either one of them personally. But I will say that Musk's response is friggin' hysterical. I thought it was completely hysterical. Check it out.
And the comments that Bill Gates made the other day, which, and I know that you called him.
Yeah, he's a huge liar.
I know you've said that already.
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, well, he said he regrets those, and he's spent a lot.
You got to admit, that is bluntly hysterical and bluntly the truth, too. And I have no doubt that they are going to continue to bang heads in their little fight over taking over the skies, because I bet you that's a big part of it, too. And anything else that they can take over or beat each other to the punch. And I think Musk is way ahead of him on the punch with that. But when it comes to the other agendas of the globalists and the Agenda 2032 and Gates and friends, yeah, they're kind of ahead of the punch. Let's hope they fall behind soon. Far, far behind. Now, a few other predictions to help you feed that prediction addiction, friends. And if you are really having an urge to feed your prediction addiction, and you missed last week's top video, I did top prediction video. Top subjects with lots of predictions, actually. That was last week. And the previous week, I did a channeled prediction video for the month of May. Many of you missed that. So I'll leave the links somewhere up above. They'll pop up. And always, every week, look down in the description and you'll see recommended videos. So you can find those videos there as well. So moving on to first, I see issues coming up for Bill Clinton. And I've gotten this in the past, but it came up again today. I first see that there's going to be some type of controversy and a controversial cover-up around Bill Clinton. Wonder if that has to do with that little island and such. I don't know. But it also has to do with some coming health issues. Issues that I actually feel he already has right now, currently. Kind of like Biden having the big C long before they told us. Because as advanced as his big C is, Biden, there's no way that they just found that. He's had that all along, I assure you. That's why they kept him hidden and kept him all, all that. So going back to Bill Clinton, issues I believe, again, he's currently already having. And perhaps maybe that's part of the cover-up, that they're covering up what's really going on with his health. Not that anybody really cares at this point in time. But Bill happens to be in his 9 personal year of endings and death of cycles. Just like his wife, Hillary. Yeah, she's in her 9 personal year as well. So it's very likely that one could lose the other. My friend Bill was in his 9 year last year, and my dear friend Susie passed away. I thought it would be the other way around, but it was her. So that can happen. Your 9 years about ending. Sometimes you lose your job or you retire. People pass. I remember I had to put my dog down in a 9 year. That was back in 2012, my first dog, Anubis. Yeah. Precious Mary Jean's brother, big brother. Yeah. Anyway, Bill is in his 9 years, so this could very well be the year that Bill Clinton has a sudden health emergency that causes him to pass. We'll have to keep our eyes on the Clintons. Another one that came to mind is Lindsay Buckingham. He came to my mind very strongly over the weekend, and Lindsay happens to be the guitar player and singer, one of the singers from one of my all-time favorite bands, Fleetwood Mac. And, come to think of it, wasn't it Clinton that actually had Fleetwood Mac at his inauguration? I'm pretty sure it was, right? Remember that? That was a long time ago, but I feel like I remember that. And I remember that being like Bill Clinton's favorite band. Oh, no. I'm surprised I never ran into him at a Fleetwood Mac concert because I've been to a lot of them. I've actually been on stage with Mick Fleetwood, got a picture with Mick Fleetwood. Stevie Nicks shook my hand. Yeah, lots of good memories with that band. But Lindsay Buckingham, the last time they went on tour, they kicked Lindsay out of the band, and I went and saw them that year. And they were not good without Lindsay, sorry. I was very disappointed. And it's hard to disappoint me when it comes to one of my favorite bands, but that was disappointing. Lindsay makes up Fleetwood Mac. You're not Fleetwood Mac without Lindsay, just like you're not Fleetwood Mac without Mick Fleetwood or any of them, really, any of them. So he's a Libra, Lindsay Buckingham. Libra in his 4 personal year. A year that sometimes can bring up health stuff and stuff. Like sometimes even people pass, like Queen Elizabeth, she passed in her 4 year. And I believe something serious is happening around Lindsay Buckingham's health. And he too might not make it by the end of this year. So fingers crossed, because I still love them all, even though they're not together anymore and probably never will be again. But Stevie's still rocking it out there. But her tickets are way too expensive. Another thing I want to share is and actually Billy Joel. I forgot about Billy Joel. And when is his birthday? Hold on. When is Billy Joel's birthday?
Billy Joel was born the 9th of May.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He's in his 5 year, and I know he just had health issues. So he'll be around for a while. But definitely he's got health issues, which means he didn't care for them last year when he was in his 4 year and he ignored them, and now it's more serious. That's what happens. If you have something that happens in the 4 and you don't pay attention and you don't get a hold of it. Think of COVID 2020. That was a 4 year, right? A 4 vibration. Didn't mean you were going to get the bug. It meant you had to be mindful so that you didn't, right? That's the 4. And if you don't get it under control, then it becomes a worse situation in the 5. Luckily, that got under control, or we would have had a really worse 2021. Speaking of that bug, this just popped in my mind. I just read that in China, the 2020 bug's risen again. Remember, Spirit told us about new outbreaks, and even in China. And they're saying it resurges in China with acute symptoms, which are very sudden, comes out of nowhere kind of symptoms. That's kind of crazy. China can keep it in China where it belongs. I'm not worried about it. So if you read about that and you're worried about it, I'm not really concerned about that. And I don't think you should be either. And we already know certain things that can help with that. You can, again, do your own research as far as that's concerned. Let me go to my other prediction I had here, because another thing I wanted to share with you is my feelings over the past week that Kentucky, and I have relatives on my grandma's side that live in Kentucky, but Kentucky, for whatever reason, is what we would call a targeted state. And I said this about other states in the past, Florida, Texas in the past, and we've seen the strange storms and floods and the things that happen after I said that consistently. And they're not done with those states. So these states, I would expect Kentucky will be dealing with major wildfires in the coming summer months. So friends in Kentucky, family in Kentucky, watch out, be aware. And be aware of coming wildfires in the late summer months. Finally, on this episode of Teatime, we delve deep into the subject of past lives and the potential angels that could step in and save people's lives. Do you believe? Do you believe that you have lived before? Whether you do or whether you don't believe, doesn't matter, because we have been doing this thing called life for thousands of years, friends. We've all been doing this for a long time. And there is tons of evidence, books, stories, and my opinion that prove the existence of past lives. Not only that, I've had my own personal experiences. I've interviewed on my podcast back in the Blog Talk Radio days, and I know many of you follow me from those days, and I appreciate and love you for doing so. Authors of past life regression books, like Carol Bowman, a dear friend from Pennsylvania who is the author of the book Children's Past Lives. Dr. Brian Weiss, who's the best-selling author of Many Lives, Many Masters, and several others. Dr. Raymond Moody. And I'm also personally certified in hypnosis and in past life regression. Every once in a while, I'll run a past life regression course or class, which I will get one of them up on my website eventually. But this year, I'm lightening up on the classes because last year was constant teaching. This year, I'm lightening up and doing some travel. But going back, remember Spirit told us that we would begin to recall past lives? Remember that? That we would begin to recall past lives and many other truths of our soul's existence would just naturally begin to come to us. Starting with even the younger generation especially. Remember, Spirit told us the younger generation is going to really be the awakening ones. So there are countless stories like the one I'm about to share with you, of amazing past life accounts. And this is one I just had to share with you. So I hope you enjoy.
Back now with a tale that you have to hear all the way to the very last twist. A young boy who says he remembers things he couldn't possibly from a time long before he was born. That's according to his mom. She turned to experts of the mind for some answers. NBC's Cynthia McFadden tonight with the incredible story of what they found.
It's not unusual for little boys to have vivid imaginations, but Ryan's stories were legendary.
He said, Mom, I have something I need to tell you. I think I used to be somebody else. And he started just telling me these stories about how he had lived in Hollywood. His stories were so detailed. It just wasn't like a child that could have made it up.
Ryan talked about dancing on Broadway, working for an agency, traveling the world, being married 5 times. He even said the street he lived on had the word rock in it.
And it would be, my last room was grander. I want to go back to my swimming pool.
But things got really strange when they picked up a book about the golden age of Hollywood.
She turns to a page, and I say, that's me. That's who I was.
That's me.
Yeah.
But the man in the picture wasn't even a major star, just an unnamed extra with no lines in an old Mae West film. That's when Ryan's mother turned to this man, Dr. Jim Tucker, a child psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. For 50 years, the prestigious school has collected more than 2,500 cases of children claiming past lives.
And your conclusion after 15 years is what?
These cases demand an explanation that we can't just write them off.
He's written about them in his book, Return to Life.
Had you ever given much thought to this whole idea of reincarnation?
No, ma'am. I grew up in a Baptist church. You know, that's not something that we were taught to believe in.
But with the help of a movie historian, the man Ryan pointed to in the picture was finally identified. His name, Marty Martin. And just like Ryan said, he was a former actor turned Hollywood agent who danced on Broadway, was married 5 times, and even lived on Roxbury Drive in Beverly Hills. In all, Dr. Tucker confirmed that 55 of the things Ryan said were true.
Of course, a lot of people are going to say, come on, this is the parent or somebody else feeding them information.
It's just inconceivable that the parents, for some reason, had done all that. This information wasn't on the internet.
But there was one fact that detail-obsessed scientists thought Ryan had wrong.
He said he didn't see why God would let you get to be 61 and then make you come back as a baby. That looked like just an incorrect statement.
That's because Martin's death certificate says he was 59 when he died.
Since then, I've gotten information that the death certificate was actually incorrect, which would have made Martin 61 when he died. Ryan was right all along.
Are you glad you've had this experience? Yes, I am.
A chance, he says, to live his own wonderful life.
Past lives are amazing. I know many of my past lives. I've seen them very clearly. Even the Spiritman, actually, the term Spiritman, actually, and I didn't realize this, a friend gave me that name when we were like hanging out in what we called the peace room, drumming, and you know, what 20-year-olds do. And friend says, from this day forward, you'll be known as Spiritman, man of wisdom, man of light. And then it just stuck. And everybody had a nickname then, and that just always stuck. And then I found out this name goes back to ancient Egypt and the time of Ramses II, who ruled Egypt in that past life, and I was the high priest of the Egyptian temple of Anubis, which is interesting. I found this out after I got the tattoo of Spiritman and the tattoo of Anubis on my right calf. Isis is on my left. So yeah, amazing experiences. I've even crossed paths with people I know, like the person that killed me in my past life, which was Ramses II, by the way. He took me out completely. So interesting. I want to know, and going to someone that, because clients have asked me, hundreds of times, oh, can you tell me my past lives? I won't do that. And I don't believe anybody should do that. If you want to know what your past lives are, don't believe what somebody tells you. I could sit there and tell you were Cleopatra, and who's going to validate it? Nobody. There's no validation, no proof. The best way to explore your past lives is through past life regression, which is a form of hypnosis. And there's many techniques you can do on your own. I remember going to Carol Bowman would do events, and she would hypnotize the whole audience. I had an experience with that. And then I went to her privately. And then, of course, I'm certified in those areas. So definitely, I highly recommend delving into the realm of past lives, because it can put your current life into total, it clarifies a lot of stuff in your current life. It's pretty amazing. Also amazing is this final piece that I wish to share with the tribe today. Perhaps proof that angels do exist, and they will intervene when we're not quite meant to exit this earth plane, when our soul contracts are not up and something happens and we need that help to make sure we don't exit. Yeah, I don't need any convincing personally. Maybe some of you do. But I know angels exist. And I know I've had instances where I know the angel took over my car and was driving. There ain't no other way. I would have crashed right off the side of the road. There's just no way. I know it. So I have no doubt. And maybe you'll have no doubt either. And maybe you'll be convinced, if you need convincing, after you watch this. Check it out.
Life was saved. So why did he disappear, even from the photos?
Missouri Miracle. Much of it, though, still a mystery. A teenager with a beautiful smile, 19-year-old Katie Lentz, trapped in her mangled car, hit by a drunk driver.
I promised her mother and her that we'd get her out.
While inside that car, Katie had one request: to pray with the rescuers out loud. And then suddenly, right there, amidst the rows of corn, at the scene blocked off for nearly a mile, a man appears.
He was dressed in a black priest shirt with a white collar.
And the rescuers notice something else. He was carrying a small bottle.
He had a small little white container of anointment oil, is what it appeared to be.
And he asked if he could anoint the girl in the car.
Him to do it.
A sense of calmness come over her then, even more so than what she had been already. I can't be for certain who said or how it was said or where it come from. We very plainly heard that we should remain calm, that our tools would now work, and that we would get her out of that vehicle.
Moments later, it happened. A neighboring fire department arrives with a new set of stronger tools, finally able to cut through that frame. They all turned to thank the priest, but he was gone.
And just a few questions, as I only have a time to answer a few questions from our comments. Starting with Lise, who asks, are we going to find out about Bigfoot and other beings that are around the earth? What do you know about them? Well, we talked about that many times. I have a neighbor, well, she's not my neighbor anymore, but when I first moved here, 2 doors down, tells an amazing story of a Sasquatch on the mountain right next door, the hiking trail. Funny story, too. The way her and her son tell it is pretty funny. But I swear I saw one at Bradshaw Ranch. If not, it was something. I took a picture and it blurred out the center of the picture, so all you see is a blur in the center of the picture, which is interesting. And there's no doubt that there's some type of interdimensional beings. It's interesting you asked about that because Tom Dongo, who's in Sedona and supposed to be one of the UFO experts and connected to Bradshaw Ranch here in Arizona directly, just posted something about Sasquatch the other day. And Yeti, they're all connected. They're all the same. It's a combination of interdimensional beings, but also beings that live here right on this planet. And remember, Spirit told us that we would this would all be revealed to us, and the truth would be unfolded little by little, not too much at once. Because, they say the truth will set us free, but it's going to piss a lot of people off, to be quite honest. It will. Because, they've been lied or deceived to. But yes, they're very, very real. There's lots of real things. And not only that, there's going to be portals that are going to open that are going to release things that aren't going to be so nice, which I believe those portals, that's already happening. And that's in the Hopi prophecy. The Hopi talked about that and many other native traditions. Another question in the chat. There will be a big NATO summit in Hague, the Netherlands, at the end of June this year. Do you know if this will be safe? I live very close to the event. Thank you. And that's Zanet, right? Zanet. I hope I did that right and didn't butcher your name. So a big NATO summit in the Netherlands. Spirits say you will be fine. No fear. But to avoid all that negative energy, you might want to take a little holiday. Go a little distance away just to escape the energy, says the spirits. But other than that, all will be well. Or just keep a good protection dome around your house. Do you have any idea on which year society becomes completely unrecognizable? We are working on buying land and building a homestead, and I don't want to be in the middle of that when things really take a drastic turn. Well, that would depend on where you live and so much. And you got plenty of time because, when everything does go crazy, there's still going to be people fleeing to the mountains to build, again, homesteads and come together in communities. Remember, Spirit told me decades ago that humanity would be somewhat forced to come together in pure love, helping one another and building future communities. So you got plenty of time because that's what I'm out here for, to build a future community. And the one that Spirit's been showing me is going to be an awful lot of money to do. Like in the millions, multi-millions. So I'm just sitting back waiting for the proper timing and everything to align the way. And as long as you know in your heart and soul that it's all going to play out, even better than what your vision is, it will. But going into fear, making sure it's just going to cause you to stumble, fall, and cause you delays, and just hold in the light all goodness, and all goodness will prevail. Do you, hey JT, do you see New York turning into a red state in the future? Unplug from the politics, my friend. Let your state become independent instead of red or blue. Independent is the only way to go. People always, somebody said this was what did they call this channel last week? A MAGA channel. I'm like, what the hell is a MAGA channel? I'm an independent, baby. I don't pick red, blue, and I don't pick sports teams. That's all part of getting you divided. Be independent. It's the only way to be. Question, what is the future of coins and notes that people are collecting? Will they hold value when they digitalize currency to come? Well, yeah, coins and all that are already collectible will always be collectible. And they will be even more collectible when time passes. So even here in the United States, the state coins, even though they're fake metal, they'll be worth something in the future when we're gone because they're going to want to look back. You'll see that stuff in museums. So definitely hold on to that. Sorry, my camera totally cut out and overheated because I've been here too long and it's time to end the show soon. Going back to the coins and notes, yeah, they will be worth some, especially those that are real silver and real gold, of course. Of course, always, always, always. Too many questions to answer right now. I'll have to do a Q&A soon. I don't want to keep the show too long. I did get 2 things in the mail, which I totally forgot because remember I had food poisoning earlier in the month and then I just forgot to check my P.O. box. It's been a while. And you know what? I don't have the envelope for this. Darn. This was an Easter blessing card sent from one of our beautiful tribe, Wendy, in Skipton, North Yorkshire, England. Joseph and family, hope your Easter is blessings and joy and happiness with love from Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. That was very, very nice and sweet. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for your videos on YouTube and keeping us pre-posted for coming events. You are welcome. Thank you for the beautiful card. I got this long one on this beautiful paper. Look at this beautiful paper from my friends down under. And this came from Deborah. And I can't read the whole thing because it would take me 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. But Deborah, who is Tropical QLD Australia. She was talking about the frog. Oh, you sent me the froggy things. I read this and I forgot. I read this last week. I meant to talk about this last week and totally just forgot. You don't need to read this on air, she says. I just wanted to comment on the bees and the bee population and the damage being a combination. And she is saying it's a combination of everything, the pollutants in the water, the food, the stuff they spray in the skies, and the towers and so many other things. And I did read this thoroughly, and I'm going to read it again when I'm done because it's long to read. But also you mentioned the behavior of fish, and she says in here that this is maybe connected to the earthquake activity, of course, but also toxic algae blooms, which makes sense because that's in my past predictions about algae blooms, and beaches being shut down. That's a big thing coming up this summer. That was in my predictions like a month or so ago about the coming beaches and all. Thank you for your message, Deborah, and your input, and thank you for your frogs. I got lots of frogs out in the pond. I'm so grateful. Lots of them this year, but they are so loud. Well, friends, I very much hope you enjoyed this edition, episode number 168 of Teatime, baby. And if you did, please do give me a thumbs up, love. If you're new here and you hit that subscribe button, welcome to the tribe. We welcome you with open air hugs, friends. Open air hugs. Don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter. And don't forget to keep your eyes out for the June forecast and predictions premiering later this week. Until the next time, friends, remember, be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste and much love, friends. Much love.